At 2 in the morning, my doorbell chimed twice, polite as a waiter, and then a woman's voice slid through the speaker like a knife wrapped in silk sign. The quitclaim. "Now," she said, "I own this lake. I own every dock on it. I own you. Or the catfish will be writing your eulogy by sunrise." Yeah, that happened. The camera caught Meredith Vale barefoot in a torn gown. Mascara like war paint, breathing champagne and rage on my gravel drive. First night at Sentinel Lodge, and that's the welcome I sat there in the dark kitchen after hand, around a mug that went cold, listening to the little waves knock at the pier, and to that sentence, "You don't forget. I own you." People have tried to own me before. When I was 19 and broke when I was 33 and buried under an alias. It didn't work, then it wasn't going to start tonight. You know what I mean? 72 hours earlier, I'd stood at the gate with a key that felt heavier than metal. Some keys do, they carry scars and favors and names. You can't say out loud, "I used to work where sunlight doesn't go." Coast Guard, investigative service called me. Atlas 9, the people we chased, called me a ghost when our task force snapped the Nightwater pipeline last year. The government retired me with breathing room instead of a plaque. They handed me a property transfer. Sentinel Lodge, 5 acres of pines and a timber hall that could outstare a storm. An inlet on North Cross Lake, where the water looks like polished glass until it remembers its history. The quiet part was optimistic first afternoon. I smelled diesel, where I should have smelled only leaves and cold air. There's a hum to hydraulics. A man doesn't forget, and yet no boat in sight. Ghosts announcing themselves under the wind. I was peeling a dusty sheet off the dining table when the convoy came lead car, a black G550 2 SUVs fanned behind that expensive purr rich people use when they want to be loud without admitting it. Doors opened, and the show stepped out. Meredith Vale in winter white and diamonds with their own zip code. Hair sprayed into a helmet that could bounce a Q2 security guys with the CrossFit look and empty holsters. Graham Vale followed slower. That lawyer slick smile. "Sharks must practice. You need to vacate immediately," Meredith said at all command. "No curiosity. This shoreline is under association jurisdiction. You are trespassing on community property." I kept my voice at the setting I use when a room is about to go sideways, calm enough that fear gets confused, "Ma'am. I've got a federal transfer recorded last week. I said you can read it." "But I'm staying," she laughed. Bright brittle. "Federal transfer. Sweetheart seized properties. Don't go to private." "Nobody's. You can't just buy a lake?" I watched her eyes, not her mouth, left lid, twitched at federal. Her hand drifted toward the bag. "Where people keep mace or secrets." "To nobody," I said. And I didn't buy it. The War Department Reserve Order of 1912 carved out training zones for national defense. 2 years earlier, President Taft signed a deed that put the submerged land within 2 miles of this point, under one title. That title runs with the lodge. You're lying thin now. Her muscle-hired help shifted on their feet like the ground had gotten soft. Graham slid in with the smile that sells bad deals. "Mr. Bennett, may I call you Cal? Surely there's a civilized way to resolve this. Civilized people don't threaten neighbors at 2 a.m., I said. "And your gentlemen can't open carry on land that isn't theirs. They left in a spray of gravel and pride, and Sunrise taped a cease and desist to my door, accusing me of operating a commercial marina. By noon, an environmental inspector stood on my dock. Sweat in October looking for fuel tanks that didn't exist. Whispering apology like a secret they offered me $5,000 to find something. He said, hands shaking over a clipboard. Like it was hot. I'm 6 months from my pension. I'll write the truth. But they'll send someone who doesn't mind lying. That's the thing about money. Poke it, and it pokes back harder. Yellow caution tape showed up on my pier, like a TV show with no budget for accuracy. More inspectors. More theater. That afternoon, 3 knocks hit my door with a sailor's rhythm. Elmer Pike, straight as a mast. Vietnam cap eyes, like winter water herd. "We got a new landlord," he said. Not asking. "You're the Atlas guy." "I did time with CGIS, I know our own." "Retired," I said. He snorted, "Sure. Like a boat is retired. Just because it's on the hard. And still smells like salt." He looked past me at the inlet. "That mouth's been bad for years. Old wartime test bay under there. Small subs using it for people who think laws are suggestions. Meredith and Graham pretended not to notice while donations got fat." "Watch your back," cornered. "Money is mean." We drank bad coffee. Swapped names. We didn't say out loud that night. I took a flashlight and went hunting because sleep was pretending to be a thing. I'd ever had old houses hide their secrets behind obvious things, 4th shelf by the fireplace, a sailing knot book with no dust. Pull click, a cool breath from behind the wall. Stairs into a room, part office, part vault, part shrine to arrogance, bottom drawer labeled riverbed. The deed on heavy paper, older than any of us. Taft's signature, like it was carved with a chisel. The language clean as a slap. Submerged lands within 2 miles of the lodge point. One title. Transferred with the lodge in 1979, every dock piling anchor mine to grant or deny another cabinet. Detyped agreement between the association and a shell tied to Nightwater's money man. Cultural exchange, my left shoe they'd been paying for water they didn't own, and then fresh bank printouts. Cayman account holder, Meredith Vale deposits lining up with nights I knew too well. Steel noses breaking the surface where nobody looked. I called Joy. The only person authorized to hear the parts of me I don't put in daylight. We missed one. I said she went quiet in that way people do. When they're building a plan faster than they can describe it. Send it all, Hal. If it's as clean as you say, I'll move the mountain. The lake didn't give me time to exhale at 2 a.m. The doorbell blinked again. You heard the lines, the threats, the brag. But then she said, "What?" Boiled the blood in my veins cold. We put one marshal's chief in this lake already swaying so hard, the camera hunted focus. Ask the fish about Chief Dana Marshall. She snooped. She sank, you will too. We'd suspected we'd never proved, now my doorbell shipped the confession to the cloud. Before I could say a prayer, I filed my response at sunrise. Not just a denial, but a claim. Lakebed ownership by deed and reserve order. Demand for 30 years of back rent at a reasonable rate. Payable to an environmental restoration fund. Attachments small, but sharp. A page of the deed, a line from the side agreement, 15 seconds, of Meredith confessing to what she thought would always stay rumor enough to be undeniable. Not enough to spook the rats before I watched where they ran, and I walked into the emergency board meeting where money dresses up to be reasonable. The Lakeside Pavilion looked like a wedding venue, ashamed of itself, tables ranked by property value. Don't argue, I've got eyes. And Meredith at the podium with slide 12 insisting my deed was fantasy. I rolled my old trial briefcase down the aisle, put the deed under their document camera. Old paper glows under those bulbs. Taft's name hit the screen, and the whole room inhaled at once. This isn't a blog post, I said. It's a deed that outlived your bylaws. The reserve order backs it. 2 miles of submerged land, my title, which I intend to steward, not sell. Forged someone in? Back yelled, because there's always a somebody. Then explain why your association signed a side agreement in 1990 to pay for what you claim you already owned. Legal fonts make people behave, watches ticked. And then I plugged in my phone. Communities that don't threaten to bury neighbors where their kids swim. The video played in cruel clarity. We put one Marshall's chief in this lake already. Glass hit tile. A man stood so fast his chair flipped. The doors opened without drama, and a line of agents came in. With the kind of quiet that rearranges a room. Special Agent Priya Chow walked to the podium. Voice level like a carpenter's tool. Meredith Vale. You're under arrest. Graham. Vale. You too. Racketeering, money, laundering, conspiracy murder, and the rest we'll read you on. The ride cuffs clicked small. Sound, big change. That night, 15 properties got searched. The lake gave back what it could. Wrapped steel, old weapons, evidence you don't want to touch. And bones, months later, Chief Dana Marshall's widow rested her hand on my rebuilt rail like it was a headstone. That finally had a name. The headlines wanted me to burn the shoreline down. After that, I could have my lawyer even smiled like he was shopping for a bigger boat. Instead, I stood in the same pavilion and told the room what I wanted. Dissolve the association permanently so nobody could use a rulebook as a weapon again. Grant every waterfront family a permanent easement for access at a rate they can breathe through. Lock the money to a court-ordered restoration fund so the water gets the apology it deserves. Turn the wartime test bay into a memorial museum named for the ones who never came home. If anyone hides evidence or harasses their rate, jumps to market. And they answer to a judge, the air in there changed. Relief smells like rain. After diesel papers got signed, crews showed up in boots and gloves. Captain Pike ran the volunteer board like a ship. Schedules posted, voices heard, drama shut at the door. And his daughter Sloane, a maritime lawyer who can steer a 30-footer, and a negotiation with the same calm hands, made the easements bulletproof and somehow made my life softer than I planned. For court was ugly. Like truth under lights. Meredith tried on excuses, like coats. The jury left, came back in under an hour. Didn't look at her when the foreman spoke. Graham's sentence reads like a long winter. A congressman with the same last name learned jurisdiction. Flies faster than private jets, quiet, returned the honest way. On Saturdays, kids laugh out boards, idle with respect. The water slaps pilings that finally aren't hiding anything. Once in a while, the inlet sighs its old hydraulic sigh, and the Navy brings a small gray shape up through legal water. For training, flag up, permit signed a rent check that helps fix what history did. And the hair on my arm still stands up because we gave the lake back its uses and took away its secrets. That's the best you can do for a place with scars. If there's a hero here, it's paper. Old paper that outlived greed and kept its meaning, and people who moved mountains before breakfast. Joy on the phone, Elmer at the rail, Sloane in the margins. I'm just the stubborn man who didn't sign. When a woman in a white suit told me she owned me, underestimated again, retired alone. Easy to push off a dock in the dark. I've been those things, but I'm not that easy. And here's the part I won't tie up in a bow. The easements work until somebody decides they don't. The old money that lost its favorite toy still believes rules are things you pay to skip. The lake looks clean, and mostly is. And some nights I sit on the pier with coffee that goes cold too fast, and wonder what we still haven't found. Maybe power doesn't change people. Maybe it just turns up the volume. The question is, who you let hold the microphone? If someone told you at your own front door that they owned you, what would you do first? Lawyer, sheriff record button, or a statute? Your granddad never heard of, did I go too soft with the easements? Or finally fair? Have you seen an HOA used like a hammer? Or did one ever actually help your street? Breathe easier, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what justice looks like where you live. Hit subscribe if you want more stories where paperwork wins, the underdog gets stubborn, and the water finally tells the truth.